Hello students, today we are going to study a topic respiration from life process chapter. Here we will study about types and process of respiration and how various groups of animals do this process. Basically, respiration is a biochemical process because it is a chemical process and found in living beings, so named as biochemical. This is a life process, means it is needed for live alive, and it happens in all organisms from unicellular to multicellular and in plants also. It includes stepwise oxidation of food in cells. Breathing and respiration. Sometime we take breathing and respiration both the terms as same, but no, these are two different processes. How? Breathing is a physical process and it involves only intake of oxygen and output of carbon dioxide. But respiration is biochemical process because it involves oxidation of food inside cells and exchange of gases. Here we listen to important terms also, inspiration and expiration. Inspiration is inhalation of oxygen and it is an active process, while expiration is a exhalation of carbon dioxide and it is a passive process because energy is not needed here. Intercostal muscles of thoracic cavity and diaphragm plays an important role during inhalation and exhalation. This will be to study later. Types of respiration. Here are two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. If very simply, if molecular oxygen is present during process of respiration, then this type of respiration is termed as aerobic respiration, and if oxygen is absent, that means respiration occur in the absence of oxygen, it is known as anaerobic respiration. And organisms which do aerobic respiration are termed as aerobes, and which organism do anaerobic respiration are termed as anaerobes. Basically, aerobic respiration produces more energy than anaerobic respiration. At least 38 ATP produces during aerobic respiration, while only 2 ATP produces during anaerobic respiration. Then question arises, what is the need of anaerobic respiration? In some cases, oxygen is not present, oxygen is completely absent, like in primitive environment of earth there was not oxygen. So anaerobic respiration was the only source for breakdown of food, for oxidation of food, for getting energy. So there was anaerobic bacteria, they do anaerobic respiration for getting energy for by breakdown of their food in cells. This is you have to always remember that respiration only occur within cell, inside the cell. And now anaerobic respiration is a characteristic of yeast which produces ethanol, and it is also known as fermentation. And in other organisms like in frog, 100% cutaneous respiration occurs during hibernation, and in all marine snakes 20% respiration is by skin, is also of anaerobic type. In this snap we are seeing equation of aerobic cellular respiration. Here one molecule of glucose breaks down in the presence of 6 molecule of oxygen and give rise to 6 molecule of carbon dioxide and 6 water molecule with energy generated here in the form of ATP. About 38 ATP generated here. This is equation of anaerobic respiration. This is also an anaerobic cellular respiration. Here one molecule of glucose breakdowns complete absence of oxygen and give rise to lactic acid, 2 molecule of lactic acid, and only 2 ATP energy generated here. And we can see that there is not complete breakdown of glucose occur. So in both equations we can see a clear difference that how much more energy produces during aerobic respiration and in anaerobic lower part of energy generated. Sometime in our muscle cells, human muscle cells also have anaerobic respiration. This is happen when a complete requirement of oxygen, complete supply of oxygen does not takes place, then and breakdown of glucose. If energy is needed and oxygen is absent, then breakdown of glucose will be happen without oxygen, and lactic acid forms here. Now we will study mechanism of breathing. It is different among different groups of animals depending mainly on their habitats and levels of organization. Like in lower invertebrates like sponges, coelentrates, flatworms, they have exchange oxygen with carbon dioxide by simple diffusion over their entire body surface. What is diffusion? In diffusion, particles of air, water and solids goes from the area of higher concentration towards the area of lower concentration. This is called diffusion, and it happens by the tiny pores which are present in the semi-permeable membrane of amoeba. Through their pores, higher concentration inside amoebal cell there is a higher concentration of carbon dioxide, and in outer atmosphere higher concentration of with the compare of carbon dioxide, in the outer atmosphere oxygen concentration is higher. So oxygen comes inside the cell and carbon dioxide goes outside the cell through common diffusion process. Same process follows in earthworm also. There is also diffusion process follows, and earthworm use their moist cuticle for gaseous exchange. And in fishes, a special vascularized structure called gills are present. They used by most of the aquatic arthropods and mollusks also. So we can see that different organism uses a different type of mechanism for breathing, for exchange of gases. Like in chicken, lungs are present but are not well developed like human beings. In fishes, gills are present. In caterpillar, spiracles are present. Spiracles are also tiny pores present on their skin from their diffusion process. You will have to remember all the time that all have common process is diffusion. Sponges, they have also tiny pores in their skin, and in spider, book lungs are present. They are also lung-like structure but not developed as human beings. Frogs are amphibians and they live on both land and water. On land they breathe with their lungs, and underwater they breathe through their moist skin. Now we will do study human respiratory system. It is well developed and more critical, more complex than in the comparison with other organisms. Human respiratory system may be divided into two parts: conducting portion and exchanging portion. Conducting part of respiratory system starting with the external nostrils up to the terminal bronchioles, and these are constitutes the conducting part, transports the atmospheric air to the alveoli and clear it from foreign particles and humidifies it also, and it also brings the air to body temperature. And exchange part of respiratory system consists with alveoli and their ducts. They are part of respiratory system, and exchange part is the site of actual diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide between blood and atmospheric air. So human respiratory system is starting from pharynx. Pharynx is the common passage for food and air, and above pharynx we have a pair of external nostrils, these opening out above the upper lips, and it leads to a in a nasal chamber. Through the nasal passage, the nasal chamber opens into nasopharynx, which is a portion of pharynx. Now after pharynx there is larynx. Nasopharynx opens through glottis of the larynx region into the trachea. Larynx is a cartilaginous box which helps in sound production, and hence known as sound box also. During swallowing, glottis can be covered by a thin elastic cartilaginous flap called epiglottis to prevent the entry of food into the larynx. Now trachea. Trachea is a straight tube extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity, which divides at the level of fifth thoracic vertebra into right and left primary bronchi. You will have to remember that trachea is a single pipe which, when divided into two parts, each of the part is known as bronchi, and in singular one part is known as bronchus. Each bronchi undergoes repeated divisions to form the secondary and tertiary bronchi and bronchioles, ending up in very thin terminal bronchioles. The trachea, primary, secondary and tertiary bronchi, and initially bronchioles are supported by all the through by incomplete cartilaginous rings which prevent it to by being collapsed, and each terminal bronchioles give rise to a number of very thin irregular walled and vascularized bag like structure called alveoli. Here this point you will have to remember all the time that alveoli are the bag like structures, and then this all the branching network of bronchi, bronchioles and alveoli comprises the lungs. And we have two lungs which are covered by a double layered pleura. Pleura is filled with a pleural fluid and it reduces friction on the lung surface. The outer pleural membrane is in close contact with the thoracic lining, whereas the inner pleural membrane is in contact with the lung surface. And then now we will study exchange part of respiratory system. Before this, we have to clear thoracic chamber. What is this? The lungs are situated in the thoracic chamber, which is anatomically an airtight chamber, and the thoracic chamber is formed dorsally by the vertebral column, ventrally by the sternum, laterally by the ribs, and on the lower side by the dome-shaped diaphragm. The anatomical setup of lungs in thorax is such that any change in the volume of thoracic cavity will be reflected in the lungs cavity. Such an arrangement very essential for breathing, as we cannot directly alter the pulmonary volume. So shortly now we are revising our steps of respiration. First, you will have to remember what points you will have to remember all the time. First, breathing or pulmonary ventilation, by which atmospheric air is drawn in and carbon dioxide rich alveolar air is released out. Second is diffusion of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide across alveolar membrane. Third is transport of gases by blood, and now diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide between blood and tissue, and then utilization of oxygen by the cells for catabolic reactions and resultant release of carbon dioxide. In this snap, we are seeing a close view of terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles, alveoli and capillaries. Within alveoli, there are a very dense network of capillaries consist of veins and arteries. Now, point comes on the exchange of gases, how type gas exchanges takes place. Alveoli are the primary sites of exchange of gases. Exchange of gases also occur between blood and tissues also. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged in these sites by simple diffusion process. I have explained before also, mainly based on pressure or concentration gradient. Solubility of the gases as well as the thickness of the membrane involved in diffusion are also some of the important factors that can affect the rate of diffusion. Pressure contributed by an individual gas in a mixture of gases is called partial pressure and is represented as PO2 for oxygen and PCO2 for carbon dioxide. In alveoli, there are always partial pressure of oxygen is more than the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and in blood capillaries there is partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more than oxygen. Then on the basis of this phenomenon, oxygen goes through a higher partial at the area of from the area of higher partial pressure towards the area of lower partial pressure of gas, particular gas. So oxygen goes through alveoli inside the blood capillaries, and carbon dioxide goes from blood capillaries toward inside alveoli. So I think it is well enough for this class, and in further classes we will do study more. Thank you.